Well, there you are. I messed up. I think my recording was on before I was ready. I was still doing some things. It's about 9 minutes till, a little early, but I'm ready to get going today. Well, happy Wednesday, hump day. It has been a whirlwind of a week. Oh, my soul. I'm going to wait for everybody to get on here. I'm going to play some music while I'm waiting for folks to tune in and get logged in to the Preacher's Podcast. This is the AG family. They've been at our church this week. I was at Pastor's Fellowship yesterday. I have thoroughly enjoyed them. I haven't seen them but one time in person years ago. I first met them, and they're from here in Tennessee over in Pikeville, which is on the other side of Crossville, 30 minutes from Crossville. Hey, Miss Leah, good to see you this morning. And I've never been around them much because, of course, I've been off the road for 4 years. But they've gotten real popular the last couple of years in our circles here in Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, this eastern area. And I've heard them on, of course, on Facebook, social media, but I've never been with them in person. And their oldest daughter, hey, Gil, I guess, Brother Gil, good to see you. Glad to have you with us this morning. And their oldest daughter just got married just a few weeks ago, and she's not traveling, but they've got 2 sons and 2 other daughters that are still traveling. So there's 6 of them, and the other daughter was 7. There were 5 children, and now there's 4 with them traveling. They all play every instrument there is, I guess. Those boys are absolutely fabulous, unbelievable. And the dad is a great musician, too. He picked last night, picked the lead on his guitar, and just super musician. I didn't know he was that good. I thought he was just like most of us dads. We just strum along and the kids take the lead. But the guy can absolutely play. They're all talented, and they've all got a touch of God on them. Very humble, sweet people. So I'm going to play a little bit of them while everybody gets tuned in. Be sure and hit the like button. Be sure and share. Tag somebody if they're not here yet. We've still got about 10 minutes. I'm going to go a little longer today. That's why I'm starting early, because I feel good. I've not been able to have a full podcast yesterday because of my pastor's fellowship. It's been a whirlwind of a week with all this surgery and this trial they're running in my body with this stimulator. But I'm feeling good this morning, and I just had a big old 16-ounce cup of coffee, and I'm pumped up. I'm hyper. I'm on overdrive. So I'm ready to get going. So let's listen. This is the AG family in your presence, and I love it. Enjoy. Worship. Let's worship this morning.
Sometimes I get a longing for some time alone with you.
Woohoo! Me too, sis.
A quiet place where my strength can be renewed.
They have ministered to my heart this week. Oh, my soul.
I've slipped away from the world outside these doors. I want to be in your presence. That's all my heart is longing for.
That's what I live for, his presence.
I just wanna be in your presence. I need to feel your hand in mine.
And you don't have to be in church to experience this. It's a personal, intimate walk with God. I've been saying this for years.
That is higher than I. If I can run into your refuge, you will hide me once again.
Hey, Brother Joseph. Hey, Brother Gary.
No one can touch me like you can. I just wanna be in your presence.
If you're saved this morning, your desire should be the presence of God. That's what we've been talking about in Exodus. God meeting with us meeting with God, his presence. That's what it's about. Oh, I can't get this driven in people's hearts. That's what I desire. I live for that. Be in His presence. He's here in this room this morning. He's in me. I feel His presence. Word of God.
Touch me like you can. I just want to be in your presence.
That ought to be every Christian's desire, to be in God's presence.
Touch me like you.
You're right, Brother Gary.
I just want
Relationship, fellowship, sonship. That's good.
in your presence.
I have been preaching that for the last 60 podcasts out of Exodus. With Eric Chapman, good to see you, buddy. The whole book of Exodus, when God begins to deliver Israel and brings them into the wilderness and gives Moses the instruction to build the tabernacle, what did he say he was doing it for? That he'd have a place to commune with his people. And when you go into that holy place, it is to be in his presence. But I've said this a dozen times or more, I know. It's not for us about just going to the house of God to be in the presence of God. And God said, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there will I be in the midst. And if you go to your church and God's not there, you need to find another church. Hey, Miss Angel. But it's not about just being in church with other people that God's presence shows up. But you should be able to be in God's presence 24/7, wherever you're at, whatever you're going through. And I told Brother Kenny Baldwin's preaching our revival, and he and I are friends. We text every morning. Every morning my phone calls. If he texts me first every morning, my phone goes off between 5 and 5:30, and that's Brother Kenny. I know that's him. Hey, Stacy. And he texts us every day. We talk every day. I've already talked to him this morning. I talked to him several times yesterday because we was in Preacher's Fellowship together. But I told him in my message to him this morning, I said, I wouldn't trade anything for what God's let me go through the last few years. I couldn't have said that. I couldn't have said that a year or so ago. But I wouldn't trade anything for what I've been through the last 3.5 years. I'll tell you why. Because I have a relationship with God now that I've never enjoyed in my 63 years of being saved. In my over 50 years of ministry, I've traveled the world. I've preached to thousands, millions, literally. I preached to literally millions of people. And I have been in some of the greatest services where God was so real, you felt like we were going to get raptured out to heaven. Hey, Miss Dawn. And I know what it is to be in the presence of God. But what God has done for me personally, my relationship with God, and what I have with God now, I wouldn't trade for all the money in the world. Because God has brought me into a relationship with Him that I never imagined. Hey, Miss Carmi. Hey, Kathy. I never imagined. I mean, I knew it was possible, and I've heard about it, but I never have experienced what I'm experiencing now. The sweet presence of God in my life every day. What God is doing, I'm seeing Him answer prayers immediately. I'm seeing Him do things I never imagined. I'm seeing Him open doors I never thought possible. I'm seeing Him using me in a way that I never even assumed, never imagined, never asked for. I was wanting to go back and do what I've always done and preach every day and travel and go to this church with 100 and this church with 200 and preaching a crusade here with 500 and be in a tent with a couple thousand. But God's let me reach 500,000 people every month on social media. And now I'm reaching preachers. I met 40-some preachers yesterday in the Preacher's Fellowship. And probably 70% of them I didn't know because they're young guys new coming on the scene. And I don't know them because I've been off the scene for the last 3 or 4 years. I've been out of the circuit and met a lot of young guys. And these young guys were attracted to me because I'm an older guy. And they've heard of me. And I gave away every one of them a book on my book on depression and sending them the student guide, the leader's guide to go with it. And a lot of them are wanting to meet with me. A lot of them are wanting me to come. One preacher said, would you be willing to come and teach it in my church? God's opened up so many doors, and here I was wondering how God's going to use me. And then I've been praying for my health, and God finally opens the door for this test to be run for my back for this stimulator. And the devil tried to put a kink in that when I fell Saturday and got hurt so bad I couldn't know if this thing was working or not. And finally, I had to pray for God to heal my arm that I hurt so bad. And Monday morning I woke up, I was able to lift it up. And then this machine started working, and Monday, I was feeling better. I went to church Monday night, and I shouted and worshiped and had myself a time. And then I went yesterday morning to the preacher's meeting. It was at 10 o'clock. I got there about 9:30. We stayed and had lunch. I got home at 2 o'clock, got home, rested a couple hours, got ready, got back to church last night. We had an amazing service again last night. Dr. Kenny Baldwin pastors the Crossroads Baptist Church up in the D.C. area. His church is 3 miles from the Pentagon. And he's got an awesome church. And I've known Brother Kenny. We preached together years ago in youth meetings. I used to preach with them every year out in Hot Springs, Arkansas at the big youth conference. And I've known Brother Kenny Baldwin ever since he started preaching as a young man. Knew his daddy. His daddy's a great man of God. Daddy just turned 80 just a few weeks ago. And he's a great preacher. But I've never heard Kenny Baldwin preach like he's preaching. And 6 years ago, he like to die with COVID. He was in the hospital for months, and they gave him up to die. 4 or 5 times the word was out, Kenny Baldwin's at the point of death. And his wife had to wait on him. He couldn't even get out of bed. He couldn't breathe. He was gasping for air. And it's left him handicapped, like Jacob with a limp. That's what he preached on. He has to have somebody help him up steps. He has to preach on a stool, sitting down. I understand that, because that's where I'm at. He and I guess, mend together because we have like stories. Mine was cancer. His was COVID. But both of us have been left with scars and limps that testify to that God brought us through something, and he hasn't taken that out. That hadn't taken that away. We're still suffering over what we went through years ago, but God's still letting him travel and preach. But God's changed my ministry a whole different direction than the 50 years I've been preaching, because he's a lot younger than I am. And absolutely, what God, and he said the same thing. He said the relationship he has with God, he said he wouldn't trade it for nothing. This is what this song is. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. This is not just about going to church. The modern day Christian that's so shallow is that we go there thinking the devil's trying to stop this podcast. There's such a shallow Christianity that people think we go to church and we get a little tickle from the song. We get a little emotional from the preaching that gets excited, and he's preaching a shallow message with no meat. It's just a bunch of hoops and hollers and a bunch of personal opinions. We get all hooped up, and the preachers are running down this preacher and talking about this person, and we don't know nothing about the presence of God. Over this podcast, Satan's trying to cut it off. Stop it. Jesus, I believe God.
I believe his word is true, for I see what he can do when I call upon his name.
Hey, Amber, good to see you.
So let the world say what they will. I will choose to serve him still, knowing he will never change. I believe God.
Do you believe God this morning? Really, truly?
Some say this life is the only thing that matters.
It's not.
Some say we live and we die. But I'm convinced that eternity awaits.
Oh, what a day that's going to be.
Every breath I will testify.
I believe God.
I believe God. I believe his word is true, for I see what he can do.
You got that right, Carmen. He's trespassing. Get off this. Get off of this. He can't be here. This is God's.
So let the world say what they will. I will choose to serve him still, knowing he will never change. I believe God.
love it. I love it. I believe God.
I believe His word is true.
Such a talented, anointed family.
What
Wow.
He can do.
When I call upon His name, and I believe God. So let the world say what they will. I will choose to serve Him still, knowing He will never change. I believe God.
Oh, yes, I believe God. I believe God. Well, that's the AG family singing this morning, I believe God. And if they're anywhere near you, where you live, or somewhere in your area, in a meeting, and you get a chance to go hear them, please do that. You will not regret it. The AG family, A-G-E-E. Some call it Aggie family, but it's AG or Aggie family, ever how you want to pronounce it, but A-G-E-E. Dad and mom and 2 daughters and 2 sons, all playing instruments. Love God, I'm telling you. And this week has been an amazing week. Hey, Miss Nikki, you've been in the services. This has been an amazing week. Hey, Brother Melvin, good to see you. Monday night was awesome. Yesterday morning in the Preachers Fellowship, Randy Barrier, son of a preacher up in the Pennington Gap area, Calvary Baptist, his dad, Charles Barrier. Randy preached yesterday morning, young preacher, did a great job, preached on Lamentations, on great is thy faithfulness. He's a faithful God. And then Brother Baldwin got up and preached on Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd. And the theme yesterday was the faithfulness of God. In the Aggie family, they sung songs about His faithfulness. They even sung the song, we all sung it, Great is thy faithfulness. And then last night, what a message last night. Oh, my soul, what a message of Jesus and the disciples on the boat and the storm and going across to the other side to the Gadara, to where the maniac was at, and what he preached last night. My soul, I was so stirred. It's just been an unbelievable week. God has spoke to me in every message. And yesterday morning in the Pastor's Fellowship, I got to share the book about depression. And I had preachers coming up to me and saying, that's all I do is counsel people. They're telling me I'm depressed. I don't know what to do. I can't get out of this. What's wrong with me? And one preacher, a friend of mine, Brother Brad Davis, up in about the rabbit. Yeah, you saw that about the rabbit. I've seen the rabbit. I'm not chasing the dog that's chasing the rabbit just because I want to follow the dog that's barking. I'm chasing because I saw the rabbit. That was good. That was the final touch on the message. And you just have to watch the message and understand what that is. But honestly, just the whole week and yesterday, preachers coming to me. Brother Brad Davis, pastors up at Antioch in Bristol. Antioch Baptist, I've known him for years. And he said, preacher, he said, everybody I'm talking to, that's all they're saying is I'm depressed. I don't know what to do. I read my Bible. I come to church, but I can't get out of this hole. I feel like I'm sinking in a hole. And last night he came and he said, I've read the first 3 chapters. He said, preacher, you're spot on. He said, you're spot on. He said, I want you. He said, I'm going to use your stuff. He said, we're going to do something. He said, I may teach it to the whole church. I said, that's fine. Had another preacher that said, wanted me to come and teach it in his Sunday school to his whole church for 12 weeks. Said, can you come? And he's 15. As a matter of fact, there's a place we had the preacher fellowship. It's about 15 minutes from my house. I said, yeah, if that's what you want to do. I said, we'll talk about it. Then another preacher asked me, said, you going to video this? He said, I'd love to have videos and show it to my whole church for the whole 12 weeks. And I gave away, I guess, 45 or 50 books yesterday. And then I got to see friends yesterday morning and that I haven't seen in over 30 years, a man and his wife. Wonderful family. And we cried and we shared tears, shared stories. His wife, when she saw me, when she came out of the kitchen, she started crying and she grabbed my hand. I said, you can do better than that. And I hugged her and squeezed her. And she said, you remember us? I said, how can I forget all the meetings we had together under that tent? And it was just been a glorious week. But the meetings have been spot on. And God has helped me. The test, the The stimulator is working. Thank God my pain level is so reduced, and I'm just amazed at what God is answering prayers and doing so many things. So if you haven't seen any of the services from our church, they're on my Facebook page. Monday and Tuesday nights is already downloaded. It's on my Facebook page, and I encourage you to watch them. And tonight, you can log in and watch Buffalo Ridge Baptist Church in Gray, Tennessee. You can find the Facebook page and watch it live tonight. Or if you don't, then you can watch it later on my page. You can find it. But it's just been awesome. And then Sunday, I'll be teaching in our Sunday school class Sunday, and our Sunday school class is also live streamed on Buffalo Ridge at 10 o'clock. You can find it. You'll have, when you go to Buffalo Ridge's page, and you'll see a different auditorium, and you'll see a man named Mark Randolph will be opening up the class, and then I will eventually come, and I'll be sitting on the stool behind the pulpit, there, the podium, and I'll be teaching Sunday morning Sunday school. Don't know what I'm going to teach yet. I've got several things in mind. So I'll be teaching Sunday school, and then in May I'll be preaching on a Wednesday night there. So you can join in and live stream and watch that. So God's opening up doors and allowing me to do things, and now it looks like He's getting my health better so I can enjoy this, but He's not. I know that I'm not going to be, and don't say that I'm doubting God. I just know what God showed me. And I want it to stay this way, because my limp that I have, like Jacob, what God has left me with after all the suffering is my testimony. And I don't want Him to take that away. I mean, I'd love to be completely healed and have no problem whatsoever. Go back to traveling again, but that's not God's will. But God's using me in my testimony, because people are watching me, knowing what I've been through and am going through. They're watching me knowing I just had surgery last Thursday, stand up in the church with my hands up, shouting and praising God. And people are watching me, and they're saying, "You are such an encouragement to me. How can you do this in the pain, and you're worshiping God, and I'm sitting here in a good body and doing nothing but just sitting here with my arms folded. Shame on me." And God is using my testimony, and I don't want that to be taken away. I want God to help me to be as well as I can be, so I can serve Him as good as I can serve Him. Hey, Brother Sam, yes, it is reducing my pain. I'm thanking God. The last couple of days have been the best days I've had in months as far as my pain, especially at night. I went to bed last night about 10:45. I was so tired. I went straight to sleep. I did not wake up at all until 5:30 this morning, and I got up and went to the restroom, and then went back to sleep again until 7:15. My wife had to wake me up. She said, "Are you going to get up and do your podcast?" I said, "What time is it?" She said, 7:15. I said, "Oh my," I went back to sleep. I hadn't done that. I don't know when. And I hardly moved. This stimulator relaxes me where I can sleep at night, and I've not had that in years. So to God be the glory. Thank God. Well, Exodus 35, we finished yesterday. I just want to mention this one more time, because I think this is absolutely where we need to end this chapter before I go into the next chapter. Moses has been given instructions what to do. There's a man been appointed named Bezalel to be the contractor over all this building. Up until this point, we've been told how to build it, what it takes to build it, and now Moses has told them to bring the offerings. So everybody starts bringing stuff, and the thing that I mentioned yesterday, and this has been on my heart all night, even this morning, and I can't get it off my heart, is that everybody that brought an offering were only people that were of a willing heart, that God made their heart willing. They had an attitude that I wanted to do something for God. And I want to say this, and I was reading J. Vernon McGee, and he said the same thing. I want to read this in J. Vernon McGee, because we're going to start in chapter 36. In chapter 36, up till now, we've seen the instructions on how to build the tabernacle, but now we're going to see them building it. And they're following the blueprint. It's important that they follow it, because everything in these instructions is a portrait of Jesus Christ. So he's got to get it right, because everything that he's described to build is all a portrait and a picture. You remember what I said? Everything points to Jesus. That's why he's been so intricate in his details, because it's all about Jesus. So J. Vernon McGee said this, said, now notice, something here that's very important and essential in the work of the Lord. And this is what I want you to hear. If you're serving the Lord grudgingly, do not do it. God cannot use this kind of an attitude. Building the tabernacle are men who are carving out beautiful articles of furniture that will be used in the worship of the Lord. This is not a job to them. This is not watching the clock. They don't belong to a union. They do not just work a certain number of hours a week and quit. They're not building the tabernacle because it's their duty. They're not working because they have to work. They've been slaves in the past in Egypt, and they're not having to slave again. But this time they're working because they want to. Their hearts are in their work. And that's the way we are to do the work of God. A preacher once said, I like the ministry, but I don't like preaching. He said, I suggested to him he get out of the ministry. And I agree. The ministry is no place for a man who doesn't like to study the Word of God, or doesn't like to preach the Word of God, or doesn't like to minister to the people. If a preacher cannot do his job with enthusiasm and preach with enthusiasm, he ought to quit the ministry. And I agree. And even not just preachers, but if you only teach a class because nobody else will teach it and the preacher asked you to and you feel obligated, quit. Don't do it. God don't need a bunch of doers just to do it. God don't need a bunch of people coming to church on Sunday, grabbing some notes left over from 5 vacation Bible schools years ago, and just teaching something to these little kids because you've got to do it and ain't nobody else will take it. If that's all you're doing it for is just to fill in time, nobody know anyway, they're just 4 years old, they won't know. You've got the lives of children in your hand that you're molding. I remember things from when I was 4 and 5 years old. Things that were taught me and things I did. You have the lives and people's souls, not just their temporary lives on this earth and how they do things. You've got their souls in your hand. And when you stand before a class of children, or stand before a class of teenagers, or stand before a class of 75-year-olds, or stand before a class of people that are mentally handicapped, or you go to a nursing home to preach to 7 little ladies in a wheelchair that are drooling and don't even know you're there, don't you get up there and just do something because it has to be done. You get up there and give it everything you got, like this is the last opportunity. This is the last day on earth. Jesus is about to come, and I'm the only opportunity these people have. I remember one time in Wyoming, I was in Wyoming preaching for a buddy of mine in Gillette, Wyoming. And he had started a church up in Recluse, Wyoming, R-E-C-L-U-S-E, Recluse. And it was very recluse. It was about an hour and a half or so north of Gillette, out in the middle of nowhere, in a little community that had a school, and the entire school from preschool all the way to 12th grade had about 75 students in it. And they had built a new school, and there was a little community center that was built out of logs back in the 1800s for their community center, and there were 300 people lived in that community. There was no church in that community of any kind. So this preacher started a mission, and he preached on Sunday afternoons at 4 o'clock, and they gave him the community center, just an old log building, and I preached in it a couple times. And they would be counting what he would bring when he would go up and bring his wife, and sometimes his family, and sometimes a couple from the church, and sometimes just him and a man from the church. But there would be maybe at the most a dozen, sometimes more than that if he had visitors that came with him, and sometimes they would just be 4 or 5 or 6. Well, they were going to remodel the log community center because it was in need of repair. And so the school decided to give them a classroom to use in the new school building. So they had somebody there on Sunday afternoon to open up the school, to turn the lights on in the room and make sure that it was heated and cooled, whatever. And we took a little stand up there. They let us borrow a little stand to put our Bibles on, and had some chairs just in a little classroom. So it was on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So I was with him in a meeting. And that week he said, Sunday, he said, I've got a funeral Sunday afternoon. He said, I've got to be at a funeral. He said, it was in the wintertime. It was in January. It was cold and snowy. He said, would you go to Recluse and preach for me? I said, sure. I said, as soon as I get through the service, I'll grab a sandwich, go through the drive-thru, and I'll drive. It was about 2 hours, and it was snowing, so I give it at least 2 hours to drive. So I got a little bite to eat and then took off. And I didn't have a vehicle because I'd flown in. So one of the men in his church owned a big business that worked the oil wells and the gas wells and the gas lines out there. So he had like a 2-ton truck that had welders and stuff on the back, one of those big 4-wheel drive trucks. He said, all I've got's that. He said, I said, well, I'll be in a suit, but it don't matter. He said, well, it's clean enough for you to ride in. He said, his 4-wheel drive, he said, you're going to need it because there was 6 or 7 inches of snow on the ground. It was like in the teens. So I drove all the way in the snow. The roads were covered with snow and ice, and it was in 4-wheel drive. I drove all the way. Even just a couple miles from the school, I had to stop and let about 50 mule deer. A herd of mule deer was crossing the road. I had to sit there and watch the mule deer cross over, and I thought, this is so marvelous. I'm in Wyoming fixing to go preach in a place called Recluse in a schoolroom. I don't know how many will be there on a snowy day in January, 13 degrees and 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I'm in a gas truck, 2-ton gas truck with welders and equipment on the back. And I'm sitting here watching about 50 mule deer cross the road in front of me before I can go on. So I got to the school and I walked in. I took my guitar with me. And so I was going to sing a song and then bring a message. And I got there and 2 little white-haired ladies come walking in with their Bibles. And they were probably in their 70s, maybe even one of them even older. And I sung a couple songs, and I let them sing. I sang songs they knew. I said, help me sing now. You got to worship. And they sung, just me and 2 little old white-haired ladies. And I preached like my britches were on fire. I preached for 45 minutes, gave them everything I would if there'd been 4,500 there. And when I got through, they come up to me and hugged me and said, oh, we're so glad you came. And they give me their tithes and offering to take back to the church because they paid their tithes to the church in Gillette because there wasn't a church in Recluse. It was just a mission that met on Sunday afternoon. But they paid their tithes, so they gave me an envelope with their tithes, and I gave it to the pastors, to the treasurer there at church in Gillette when I went back Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening for the service. And they hugged my neck, and this is what they said, thank you so much for coming. Hey, Miss Patricia. Hey, Brother Gary. Hey, Elias. They said, this is the only church we have. If you hadn't have come, we wouldn't have church this week. The only church we have. And I did it with all my heart. Because when God called me, I told God, I can't do this. When the day I surrendered to preach, sitting in Bible college on the 2nd row, 4th seat, center section, on a Thursday in February the 22nd, I said, God, I can't do this. I said, but I will do this. I said, I will give you the man, but you'll have to give the preacher. The signature look, hair, mustache, that was your thing. Going clean like that's a bold move, though. What are you talking about? I ain't never had a mustache. I ain't never had, well, I don't know who you're talking about, Elias, who you're talking about, but you're not talking about me. I've always been like this. I just hadn't had white hair. I've been preaching for 50 years, and I've always been clean with dark hair. Not sure who you are and who you're talking about, but you're not talking about me. The signature look. I guess you think I look like a preacher. Well, I'm glad you're watching the podcast. I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but if you're not, Jesus Christ is the main thing, not how I look. So anyway, I'm glad you're watching. But what I'm talking about is serving God with a willing heart. That's what it's all about. And this is what God is telling Moses, and Moses is telling his people, is that, you've got to do this with a willing heart. And that's the people that brought the materials to build the tabernacle. Now we get into chapter 36. And I've read what J. Vernon McGee said. And so let's go to chapter 36. And here he begins to now talk about how we're going to build it. This is the actual building of the tabernacle. So verse number 1 in chapter 36, the book of Exodus. Then wrought Bezaleel and Aholiab, that's the one that he trained, that God anointed, and every wise-hearted man in whom the Lord put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all manner of work for the service of the sanctuary, according to all that the Lord had commanded. So now God is bringing people together that have all the gifts and the traits and the ability to be able to do the work that God has asked them to do. And so he's filling them with wisdom and understanding and doing what's necessary to give them the proper skills. Now, Bezaleel has been filled with the Spirit. And God has given him all manners of knowledge of every craft and every skill, because he has to know how to do it all. He is the contractor. He is the overseer. And God has given Aholiab, 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 to be his, I guess, his sidekick, his assistant. And he too has been filled with the skills and the wisdom necessary to do the job to build the tabernacle with all the furniture, all the robes, all the curtains. Everything has to be built to spec the way God gave the instructions, because everything points to Jesus. It is all a portrait of Christ. From the shittim wood covered with gold, the two natures of Christ, humanity and deity, to the brass which speaks of judgment, to all the different layers of the curtains, the coloring, the dyes, the badger skins, everything speaks of Christ. And we went through all of that in previous chapters. So now we're talking about building the tabernacle. Look in verse number 2. And so Moses called Bezaleel and Aholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, and even everyone whose heart stirred him up to come to the work to do it. There it again. The only people that did the work was the people that were willing. And I say this again, if you only serve God because you're doing it out of duty, God even says if you do this, you say, I've done my duty. He said, you're an unprofitable servant. I've done what I gave my tithes. You're an unprofitable servant. Hey, Kevin, good to see you. If all you do is say, well, I went to church 3 times this week, I'm a good boy. No, you're an unprofitable servant because you've done your duty. Somebody thinks God's going to reward them because they pay their tithes. God doesn't give rewards for obedience to what he told you to do. Those are requirements. God rewards your faithfulness to go above and beyond the call of duty. If all you do is your duty, you're an unprofitable servant. It's what the Bible said. I didn't say that. That's what Jesus said. You've done your duty, you're an unprofitable servant. He wants us to do it because we want to. That's even in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 8. We read about where Paul is talking to the church of Corinth because they had promised to give to the ministry and they had not made good on their promise. And he uses Macedonia as an example and said Macedonia is in their poverty. They're in deep poverty, but they gave out of the abundance of their poverty. And he said first has to be a willing heart. It's not how much you give. And it's not how much you do. It's the attitude that you do it in. The perfect example is the offering of the lady with the 2 mites. She came through and dropped in 2 mites, and Jesus said, this woman's given more than anybody. And all the surrounding disciples said, well, how can that be? People's been putting in big checks and big bags of gold and big bags of silver and dropping in all kinds of expensive gifts. And you say this woman gave the most? She only gave 2 mites? He said, yeah, but she gave all she had. She gave out of her poverty. Hey, darling, and so God tells us in the Old Testament, we're talking about the tabernacle, but the people that did the work were the people that had the attitude that I'm willing to do this because I love God. It's an attitude of the heart. And that's where God wants us all to be, is an attitude of willingness, a willing heart, a willing-hearted Christian. All of those that were willing-hearted. That's what the verse says that I read yesterday. He talked about the willing-hearted. Everyone that was willing-hearted. So I want to be a willing-hearted Christian. How about you? So verse number 4. Let's go now. Verse 4. And all the wise men that wrought all the work of the sanctuary came, every man from his work which they made. And they spake unto Moses, saying, the people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which the Lord commanded to make. So here comes the first problem in building the tabernacle, which is a good problem. All the guys that are doing the work, all the crafters, all the carvers, all the stone cutters, all the ladies that are sewing, everybody that's doing their job, they come to Moses and said, look, all the people are bringing more than enough. We don't need all this. There's too much. They keep on bringing and we don't need all this. We've got enough. Have you ever had a church pastor get up and say, y'all stop giving, we've got enough? You never heard that. I've never seen an offering taken where they say, okay, that's enough. We don't need any more, you're bringing too much. But this happened here. God had to tell them to stop bringing because we don't want to waste. We don't want stuff sitting around this is wasted. So we've got more than enough. And that's what the men came told Moses, we've got more than enough. So verse 6. And Moses gave commandment, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing. They were restrained from giving any more offerings. Here's people saying, I've got this, I want to give it. And they're having to say, well, thank you. Now God counted it to their record. They had a willing heart, and God put it on the record as though they gave it. But he had to tell them, but we don't need it. Thank you. God accepts your willing gift. Your willing, it's put on your record. It's just as though we take it, but we don't need it. It'll be wasted. So take it back. We may can use it for something else later, but right now we don't need it. But thank you so much. The people had to be told to stop bringing the gifts. That'd be a good problem to have in the church. What if people in the church got so willing to do for God and to work for God that they started bringing so much that we could support more missionaries, we could send more people to the field to preach the gospel, we could build more churches around the world, we could cause the gospel to go from the four corners of the earth. Hey, Miss Linda Snyder, sure enjoyed being with your husband yesterday. We had a great time together. And I'll get your money for your books. I've got them. I'm going to give you the money here in the next week or so. I'll get it to you somehow. And I've already got rid of them. They're already gone. Within promise. They're done spoken for. So all those 12 are gone. So absolutely, I could imagine the church giving so much that the preacher would have to say, look, we don't need any more. We've got more than enough. And that's what they had to do. So look in verse number 7. I got to hurry. For the stuff that they had sufficient, the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it, and too much. They had enough, and they had too much. Oh, what a good problem. What a good problem. This has never happened. J. Vernon McGee says, I've never seen this before in my lifetime, and I never have either. He said they were going at top speed. He said their enthusiasm was unmatched. And that's what Romans 14:5 says. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. This is how we're to serve God. To be fully persuaded, we're going to serve him because we want to. We're eager to please him. We're going to preach. We're going to teach. We're going to love him. But then so much was given. He said, J. Vernon said, this is the only place I know of that people had to be asked to stop giving. They were given a great deal more than was needed to build the tabernacle. And so the people were urged not to give. They had to be restrained and told to have enough. That's amazing. They gave liberally and joyfully and enthusiastically to God. And whatever you do for God ought to have that same attitude. It ought to be joyful. It ought to be with enthusiasm. It ought to be liberal. It should be in every essence joyful to do for God. That's the way God wants you to serve him. That's the way the job is to be done. God wants us to give joyfully. Somebody says, give till it hurts. No. Give till you laugh and it gives you joy. Give until you say, man, what a blessing. Look what I got to give. Don't give till it hurts. Give till it makes you happy. Give till it makes God happy. So now they've got the blueprint, and now they're building the blueprint. They're executing the blueprint. They're building what God took 40 days to give Moses in Mount Sinai to build this great tabernacle. Now look in verse 8. We've got time to get on. Let's go on. So verse 8. And every wise-hearted man among them that wrought the work of the tabernacle made 10 curtains. So now basically we're going over the same thing we went over in chapters before, where God told them how to build it. Now he's going over and telling them that they're building it. The instructions of what to do was in previous chapters. Now this is the record of what they did. So I'm going to go over it real quick because we've done gone over this. So the wise-hearted men, they built 10 curtains of fine twined linen. We've heard that. Blue, purple, scarlet, with cherubims and cunning work made with them. They wove all those cherubim in those curtains. So everywhere you look, they were angels watching over the holy place. And there were cherubims in the Holy of Holies on the mercy seat. So everything they're doing is according to the instructions of the blueprint to the T. To every minute detail. Hey, Brother Dwayne Johnson, good to see you this morning. The length of one curtain was 28 cubits. The breadth of one curtain, 4 cubits. Curtains was all one size. We've heard all these dimensions. He coupled the 5 curtains one to another. The other 5 curtains coupled one to another. He made loops, verse 11, of blue on the edge of the curtain from the severage in the coupling. Likewise, he made the uttermost side of another curtain in the coupling of the second. 50 loops made he in one curtain. 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain, which was the coupling of the second. And loops held one curtain to another. He made 50 taches, things that attached. 50 taches of gold. He coupled the curtains one to another with the taches, so it became one tabernacle. So basically, they took all the instructions of how to make the curtains, how to build those attachments, how to build those couplings and sockets, and to put every curtain is joined together to make one curtain to surround the entire tabernacle. The outer court, the tabernacle itself, all of this is doing what they were told to do. Verse 14, he made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains he made them. This is for the covering over the tabernacle itself. The length of one curtain was 30 cubits. 4 cubits was the breadth of one curtain. The 11 curtains were one size, so it took 11 curtains to make one layer of these goat skins that went over the tabernacle. Verse 15, the length of one curtain, 30. Verse 16, he coupled 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. So basically he put 2 of them, he put 11 curtains together, and 1 in 5 and 1 in 6. To put them together in 2 pieces so they wouldn't be so heavy. Instead of having 11 to put together every time the tabernacle went up, is just 2. You just connect those 2 big ones together. But it wasn't so big that you couldn't carry it. Because imagine curtains made out of all these materials this long and wide. 5 of them together and 6 of them together. They're heavy. And they've got to be carried, kept off the ground. They can't just lay them on the ground. They've got to be kept clean. And it took hundreds and hundreds of Levites to do this every time they moved and set up the tabernacle. So verse 14, he made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains he made them. The length of one curtain, 30 cubits, 4 cubits the breadth. 11 curtains of one size. He coupled 5 curtains by themselves, 6 by the other. Same thing. Made 50 loops on the uttermost edge of the curtains, the coupling. 50 loops made upon the edge of the curtain, which he coupled the second. He made 50 taches of brass to couple the tent together that it might be one. So this is the outer covering because he's using brass. Brass, a type of judgment. Judgment is around the outside in the outer court because you got judgment where the sacrifices are made in the outer court. Everything in the tabernacle itself is with silver sockets because it represents redemption. We went over all that. So verse 19, he made a covering for the tent of ram skin dyed red, covering a badger skin above that. So all these curtains and all these materials are made the same way out of different materials. They were 4 different layers of curtains, you remember. So this is what he's talking about, all the same size. And he made boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up. So these boards would stand up and then the curtains would be draped over them. So basically you would have a box called the tabernacle made up of standing boards of shittim wood connected together, and then over the top of that would be draped all of the 4 layers of curtains. Linen would be on the inside, and the goat skins, badger skin would be the final layer on the outside because it was waterproof. And the other layers were the dyed skins, and then of course you see all the materials. You have the ram skin covered, the badger skin, you've got the goat's hair, then you've got the linen. So there were 4 different materials for 4 different curtains in 4 different layers. They were put on certain ways. But linen, as a type of the righteousness of the saints, was on the inside. And the badger skin was the last one on the outside because that was what everyone saw, and it wasn't attractive. There was nothing attractive on the outside. But once you were in the tabernacle, you saw the righteousness, the holiness. Because to see us, and even see Jesus, there was nothing on the outside that would cause everybody to say, whoa, what a beautiful man he is. There was nothing that you'd desire him, is what Isaiah said. But yet, he was righteous. And when we get saved, there's nothing good about us but inside the righteousness of God. So it's all typology. We've been through all of this. He's just describing now how they're building it. Verse 20, make boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up. The length of the board was 10 cubits. And the breadth of a board was 1.5 cubits. So they're 1.5 cubits, 18 inches a cubit. So they're like 27 inches wide. The boards are 27 inches wide. That's a pretty big board for a big tree. And then they're 10 cubits tall. So that's about 15 feet tall. So the tabernacle walls are pretty high. So verse number 22, one board had 2 tenons, equal distant one from the other. Thus did he make all the boards of the tabernacle. And he made boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south sideward. 24, verse 24, 40 sockets of silver he made under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under the board for his 2 tenons. This is how the boards are connected, tenons and sockets. For the other board, verse 25, for the tabernacle, which is the north side, he made 20 for the south, 20 for the north. The 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, 2 sockets under another board. For the sides of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 boards, and then 2 boards for the corners of the tabernacle. He made 2 for the sides, and they were coupled beneath and coupled together at the head thereof, the one ring. Thus he did to both of them in both the corners. They were 8 boards, and their sockets were 16 sockets of silver, under every board 2 sockets. So he's basically describing all these things we went through chapters ago: sockets, taches, all the couplings, everything is to tie the boards together, to tie the linens, the coverings, the skins together, to make the tabernacle on the inside, to make the outer fence of curtains around the outer court. This is all being made and built. Verse 31. He made bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, 5 for the boards of the other side, 5 bars for the boards of the tabernacle for the sides westward. He made the middle bars to shoot through the boards from the one end to the other. So he's making bars that's going to go through these boards from one end to the other. It's going to connect them. Bars going to hold them together, keep them from warping, keep them from falling over. He's making a structure that will stand in the storms and the wind of the desert, and will hold the covering. The weight of all these skins are heavy. So he's making out of these boards, he's making a structure, a frame that is strong enough to handle the weight of all the coverings, and yet can be moved and not be destroyed. It can be taken apart, moved, and put back together and stand for, if they stay in a place for months, it can stand whatever the weather is, and hold the weight of all the skins and the coverings. Verse 34. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and made their rings of gold to be places for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. So he's overlaying them with gold and making rings, the rings so they can carry those just like they do the staves when they carry the furniture. And he made a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. With the cherubims made he it of cunning work. This is the veil. This is the veil that separates the holy place from the Holy of Holies. So he's made a veil of blue and all these colors, blue, purple, scarlet, and fine twined linen. He made, therefore, thereunto 4 pillars of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold, and their hooks were of gold, and he cast in them 4 sockets. So there's 4 pillars like columns he makes in the middle of the tabernacle, separating the holy place from the Holy of Holies. The holy place was about twice the size of the Holy of Holies, and the 4 columns would stand between these 2 places, and the veil would hang between those columns, or from column to column. And that column would hold up the entire structure, because if you drape those coverings over the tabernacle with nothing in the middle to hold it, it's like a support wall. The veil columns are like a support wall, not just to hold the curtains, the veil, but also to hold the covering, the top, on which the curtains and all the coverings would cover the tabernacle. So verse number 37. He made a hanging for the tabernacle door of blue and purple, scarlet, and fine twined linen of needlework, and the 5 pillars of it with their hooks, and he overlaid their chapiters and their fillets with gold, but their 5 sockets were of brass. So he's making the doors now, the curtains for the doors. He's making the hangings. You know, the first door in the outer court was hung with sockets of brass, but when you come to the front door of the tabernacle, it was made with sockets of silver, because you go through the brazen altar in the outer court to offer your sacrifice. Once you've offered your sacrifice, you're going into the tabernacle, and that's redemption. The sacrifice has already been slain. The priest will make the blood on the mercy seat. So inside the tabernacle, those inside the tabernacle are redeemed. And inside the tabernacle, everything you see in the curtains are fine twined linen. And everything that is holding up something is out of gold, because it is the place of the redeemed. Those that are not saved cannot go inside to worship in the tabernacle. Only those that have gone by way of the brazen altar. And even those that have gone by way of the brazen altar cannot go into the tabernacle till they've gone by way of the laver of cleansing, because to go in, you must be sanctified. You can be saved but not sanctified. You can have sin in your life. And to worship God in the holy place, you have to be clean. It's such a beautiful picture of how God makes everything. And again, everything points to Christ. Let me read before we get into chapter 37, something that is so good. He said, it sounds like repetition, but before we're given the blueprint for the tabernacle, that's what we had before was a blueprint. But now we've come to the execution of the job. We not only need a blueprint for the materials, but we need to go to work. The people of Israel are now beginning to work. And all the curtains and goat's hair and the coverings of ram skins, the boards and the sockets, everything they did speaks of the person of Christ in one way or another. The tabernacle itself, everything about it, he says the same thing that I've said. It all speaks of Jesus Christ. It is a portrait of Jesus. Everything from the outer court to the Holy of Holies, to the Shekinah glory, everything speaks of Jesus Christ. And that's the purpose of the book, is to point us to the coming Messiah, to tell us that there is one coming, and he's going to be the one who's going to take away the sin of the world, the great Lamb that'll be slain. And God says, until that happens, I'm going to give you a way whereby I can fellowship with you and commune with you. And it's going to be through this tabernacle. This is the place where I'm going to meet with you. And the first thing he said was, I will dwell in the thick darkness. I'll meet you at the mercy seat between the cherubim. And that's what God has promised. So that's chapter 36. Very quick, very short, but tomorrow, Lord willing, I will not have, I will, because I don't leave until, I'll do podcast in the morning, but I'm going to do it early. I'll do it early again, because I got to be in North Carolina not till 12:45 is my surgery tomorrow. So we'll leave here probably about 9 or 9:30. So I'll do my podcast in the morning at 8:30. It'll be a short one, but I'll do it at 8:30. And if I'm not through, I'll just get in the car and finish it in the car in Suburban. My wife can drive. So tomorrow we will have it, but it'll be at 8:30. So remember that now. Listen, open up your ears. I'll post it. Podcast will be 30 minutes early in the morning. And I won't have I may have some music, may not. I may just get straight to the teaching. I want to get in chapter 37. It's a good chapter, but it's a lot of the same thing I dealt with today. It's just the repetition of what we already know, but it's them doing the work that God had instructed them 10, 20 chapters ago. So it's good stuff. Everything's pointing to Jesus. We're coming to the end of Exodus. We're just about to the end, just a couple more chapters, and then we're going to get into another book, and it's going to be awesome. This has been a good book. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Well, I hope you have a good day today. If you haven't watched the services from our revival, go back and watch them. It will encourage your heart. Brother Kenny Baldwin's doing as great a preaching as I've ever heard him do. The AG family has done a wonderful job encouraging our hearts. Thank you for your prayers for me. I'm feeling much, much better. God has been so good to me this week and helping me. And I'm not 100%. I'm not, somebody said, are you pain-free? I said, no, I'm hurting now. My back's hurting now. I'm not pain-free. And to even think of being pain-free is asking too much. I'm not asking to be pain-free. I don't want God to take away that which he has identified me as, that gives me a testimony to share. But I can say that he's given me pain that I can bear. And when I first started this journey 26 years ago, 2000, when I went to Dr. Rout the first time, and he asked me, he said, well, what do you want? I said, well, I want to be pain-free. Would that be asking too much? He said, yeah, that's too much. He said, what do you want? I said, how about pain I can tolerate? He said, those are boundaries we can work with. And for 26 years, those doctors at that place have done everything they could to help me to get to a place where I had pain I could tolerate. And one thing after another has made it worse. This now is the next step. And this seems to be a good step in the right direction. I won't be pain-free until I get a new body. But until then, this may help me be able to continue my journey for how many years I got left. I don't know. I may have 2, I may have 10. I'm 70. I may live to be 85. I may live to be 75. I may live to be 71. I don't know. But whatever time I got left, I want to give the best I got. If I have to do it sitting in a wheelchair, but I want to be able to serve God in my right mind and be a blessing to people wherever God allows me to go. And so continue to pray. Pray tomorrow. Go get it out. Pray God for a safe trip to North Carolina and back. Get this out, and then whatever they decide, we'll be working on trying to get this in permanently. That'll be about a 3-hour procedure, and I'll be out for about 3 or 4 weeks as far as doing any kind of major activity. I'll still be able to do my podcast, and I'll still be, maybe not the first couple of days, but I'll have to get through the surgery. There'll be a couple incisions with that because they have to put the machine in my body, run the wires, and put the wires into my spine. All has to be attached permanently, so it's a bigger job than what this is. But it will be a time that I'll be out for a few days, but I'll be back in the podcast after a couple of days. I'm thinking probably latter May, 1st of June. But whatever it is, we'll work around that. Until then, we'll keep coming Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock, and hope you have a good day. If you can, watch us live tonight, Buffalo Ridge Baptist Church, and hear this last night of revival. It's been a great meeting. I've been encouraged. My heart's been encouraged. And thank the Lord for what He's done. Okay, yeah, I'm going to stay overnight the next time I leave. That was a bad mistake. But in this next surgery, after I have that surgery, yes, I'm going to stay overnight because I won't make the trip back. No way. Not with stitches and staples in my back. I'm not going to be able to do that. I will absolutely have to be in a motel for a day or two before I come back to Tennessee. But we can do it. It's no problem. So the Lord's always good. Well, I love you guys. Love you so much. Thank you for being my friend. Pray for our support. God will continue to raise our support. We need 15 more supporters. God's been so good. Thank God for those that have. Pray for all these preachers that got books yesterday, that God will help them instill this thing of depression into their church to be able to help their people. Pray for the Zoom call that starts Monday. I had another sign up yesterday. So we're 20-some right now, 20-something signed up for our first podcast, our first Zoom call. So that starts Monday at 6 o'clock. So pray for that. And if anybody hasn't signed up and you want to, you better do it today because you're running close. So everybody's already been asking, when are we getting the link? I'm going to send the link out Friday. If all goes well, you'll get the link Friday to join the Zoom call Monday. And so we'll be ready and we'll get started and see what God does. Okay, have a good day. I love y'all. See y'all tomorrow morning at 8:30, 30 minutes early. God bless you.